we've got rumors coming out of the MENA conference. How do you guys say that acronym?
I've always said MENA.
MENA conference. That makes sense. That Dubai, or the Emirates, Dubai is where the conference was held, but that the Emirates has already amassed 300,000 coins. And I've heard this from quite a few sources at this point. Definitely not confirmed yet. If this is true, and they've made an absolutely brilliant move by front running the probable announcement of the establishment of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, how do you think this plays out? We announce the strategic reserve, and then the Emirates and perhaps other countries say, yeah, we're on board. By the way, we've amassed 300,000 coins.
Yeah, so I've heard this as well, and I believe it. I find it credible. I've heard it from credible places. I think they have, actually, it's a bigger number than 300. And I think the strategy here is none of these other people. So you see that, like, the US is going to do it. And so you want to front run them. But you don't want to spook the US, right? Like, you don't want to, like, oh, they're going to do it, and now like 6 other countries announce that they're doing it, and maybe you don't want to mess up the process. So you do it quietly. And once the US announces, you announce. I think that's what we're looking at. And yeah, I'm a believer of even more than what was shared there has already happened and continues to happen.
Didn't the Dutch parliament also push for an SBR? I don't know the credibility or what part of the Dutch government, but they're like, hey, we're leaders of finance. We came up with the first joint stock company, first public equities market, essentially.
There's a lot of small bills floating around.
Yeah.
But they're like introduced by like one dude in Congress or whatever have you. So I don't put a whole lot of credibility into those, but it's definitely all over the world right now. People are, at least individual members of the lawmaking bodies, are proposing a reserve.
So do you think we're going to get both corporates and nation states actually come in with size this cycle? Because last cycle we kind of thought corporations were going to come in big, and then we saw El Salvador and we saw, oh, it's just a matter of time. And I would say neither materialized.
I think neither materialized. Yes. I think this is a good analog to look to. We all remember, for anyone who was following in 2020, 2021, MicroStrategy pulled, the Bitcoin Treasury playbook, Elon for Tesla bought, and we thought there was going to be like a wave of institutions after that. Now, in hindsight, we've kind of explained it as, okay, what really happened there was unique company, unique corporate structure, unique founder with like an ability to execute this playbook. So it turned out to be a pretty small number of companies that actually did it. My view is that I don't think it's going to be like blow the doors open. Every company's doing it this time around, or nation states are doing it. But I think we get more than just like, oh, a couple more companies have, and we've even seen it already, to be honest with you, with like Mara, Riot, the miners, are, some of these people executing the MicroStrategy LBE leveraged Bitcoin equity playbook. And I think we're going to get nation states. It may not go all like to the point where every nation state is doing it. It might be like the ones that can move a little bit more quickly. So I would say it's going to end up somewhere in between the like, oh, only a handful of entities did it versus, and like everyone's doing it. It'll end up somewhere in the middle this cycle, is my opinion.
That's probably a good sort of mid-curve case. I would say there's a not insignificant chance that this does cause the suddenly. And we've talked about this before too. Yeah. So I could see, it's the most powerful country in the world and you want to keep up, right? I would assume that some countries have been secretly stacking for a while now. That's the best way to do it, right? Until you're ready to come out and try to drive more adoption. And once the US sort of, has publicly expressed by signing this bill, which is now published, by the way, and I'll give a quick rundown of what's in it. But once the US has signaled, hey, we're in, then it's time to come out and say, so are we, so are we, so are we, and just start driving up adoption. And you've been able to stack under 100,000 that whole time. So yeah, I could see this really running with, it's just such a massive deal. Imagine like 16 years, right? And so Trump takes office, I think it's like January 20th. On day one, he's, apparently going to sign this executive order. So that would be almost like 16 years and a couple of weeks after the network came to life in 2009 on January 3rd. It's astonishing to think that in 16 years, we've gone from absolutely nothing, zero, no transactions, even the first 7 days until Hal Finney received 10 Bitcoin from Satoshi on January 10th. So there's no activity on the network. Sony just mining empty blocks, all the way to the president of the United States signing an executive order to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the most powerful nation on earth. 16 years. It's absolutely astonishing. It's exponential growth on all levels. This is an exponential technology. It's built on an exponential technology in the internet. And let's just take a look at this chart. I think this chart shows, this is exponential. This is an exponential technology versus an analog technology, right? And this is ETF adoption from 2005 up to 2024. The reason that stuff that has such an exponential growth and has outpaced gold so much is because the fact that it is an exponential network, right? Every person that comes into the Bitcoin network doubles the value of the network. So it's incredible. And this is what we're seeing happen right now. Wow, guys, like it's absolutely incredibly bullish. Maybe the suddenly is here.
This chart needs to have a Peter Schiff crying face on it. That's a big miss.
Yeah. Most successful ETF launch in history. Massive demand is out there. People are waking up and getting it. I called it HODL FOMO 4 years ago. And the whole premise there, it was combining two memes that are really the opposite of one another, right? But it's fear of missing out on holding Bitcoin for the long term because people are understanding what it is now, right? Right now, it's in the store value phase. And it's going from a speculative store value, so-called, to an established store of value that is being trusted by governments and by corporations in the mainstream financial world. So now we're in this place where we're on that curve of monetary adoption where we're squarely into store value. Everyone gets it. It's great at a store value. What they don't get yet is that eventually it'll be, because it's a great store value, demanded as a medium of exchange by merchants, people selling stuff. They want the Bitcoin. They don't want to take your shitty money and convert it into Bitcoin. They just want to get the Bitcoin. And that's going to happen. And there's no doubt in my mind. This is shown over and over and over again throughout the history of money. Study the history of money and monetary technologies, and this is what happens. So it's incredible to see that we're running up that curve, and I think that that's established store of value sort of checkpoint is right there at the kind of the exponential curve. So we'll see what happens, but everything's changed.